In 1967, you could ride the escalator up past the appliances, past the tool department, and smell it before you saw it. Coffee, hot fudge, and roasted cashews in a pink and white striped bag. The Sears coffee house was waiting. Number 14 on this list was a secret only the lunch ladies knew. Number 3 cost a nickel and made grown men close their eyes. These 25 meals fed a country that still trusted a department store to feed it. Hit that subscribe button and let us count down. Number 25. Hot roasted cashews. The candy counter came first, always. Before you ever reached the escalator, before the coffee, there was that glass case near the front of the store with the warming lamps glowing over mounds of cashews, almonds, and Spanish peanuts. A clerk in a paper hat would scoop them hot into a pink and white striped bag, fold the top twice, and hand it across the counter still warm enough to heat your palms through your winter coat. Sears started putting these counters in stores in the 1950s, and the smell of roasting nuts and popcorn drifting through the aisles was no accident. It pulled you in. A quarter pound cost about a quarter. Kids remember it as the first stop, every single time, before the shoe department or the layaway window. The bag went greasy at the bottom by the time you got to the car. Nobody threw those bags away. They saved them for buttons, for screws, for nothing at all. It was the taste of the trip beginning. Number 24. Fresh buttered popcorn. Right beside the nuts sat the popcorn machine, and it worked for the store as much as for you. That yellow kettle churned all day, and the smell traveled floor to floor, up through housewares and down into the basement where the paint and the plumbing lived. A box cost a dime. Your mother would buy one to keep you quiet while she thumbed through the catalog at the order desk, and you would sit on a vinyl bench working through it kernel by kernel. The butter was real, or real enough, and it soaked into the box until the bottom went translucent. Store managers knew exactly what they were doing. Popcorn made people linger, and people who lingered bought washing machines. Decades later, Sears executives reportedly talked about bringing the popcorn smell back on purpose because they understood that no advertisement ever sold a store as well as that one warm smell drifting past the tools. We forgot that a store could smell like somewhere you wanted to be. Number 23. Grilled cheese and tomato soup. Up in the coffee house, the tray line started simple. A grilled cheese, pressed flat and gold on a griddle, cut corner to corner, served with a cup of tomato soup, the color of a brick in evening light. This was the lunch a mother ordered when she had a child in tow and 30 more minutes of shopping left in her. Around 45 cents for both in the mid-60s. The cheese was American, the bread was white, and the whole thing was engineered to be eaten fast at a Formica table with a coat still on. You dipped the sandwich into the soup. Everyone did. The soup came from a can and nobody cared because it was hot and it was there, and the woman behind the counter called you honey when she set it down. It was the most ordinary lunch in America, which is exactly why it mattered. It asked nothing of you and gave you a warm middle to a cold errand. Number 22. Chicken pot pie. By noon, the steam tables were full, and the chicken pot pie was the crown of the hot line. Not the frozen kind. A real one, baked in a shallow oval dish, the crust blistered and shining with an egg wash, the inside a thick gravy studded with white meat, carrots, peas, and cubes of potato. You broke through the top with your fork, and the steam came up smelling like Sunday. It cost about 65 cents, and it came with a roll and a pat of butter, and it filled you completely. Shoppers who had been on their feet all morning would order it and go quiet, just eating, watching the parking lot through the big plate windows. The coffeehouse pot pie was the kind of thing a widower ordered every Wednesday because his wife used to make it, and this was the closest he could get. The lunch ladies knew his order before he sat down. That was the whole point of the place. Number 21. Salisbury steak. Salisbury steak was the workhorse of every department store cafeteria in the country, and Sears made it as well as anyone. A patty of seasoned ground beef, pressed oval, browned hard, then drowned in a mushroom brown gravy and set beside a scoop of mashed potatoes with a well of more gravy in the center. It was steak for people who could not afford steak, and it was never pretending to be anything else. About 85 cents on the tray, maybe $1 with a vegetable and a roll. Men in work shirts ate it on their lunch break. Retirees ate it at 11 in the morning because that was when the line was short and the gravy was freshest. The meat was cheap, the gravy was cheaper, but the plate looked like a real dinner, and looking like a real dinner was half of what a good cafeteria sold. You left full, and you left for under $1, and you felt taken care of. Number 20. Hot turkey sandwich. This was not a sandwich you picked up in your hands. The open-faced hot turkey plate was 2 slices of white bread laid flat, piled with sliced turkey, buried under a ladle of gravy, with a scoop of mashed potatoes on the side, getting gravy of its own. You ate it with a knife and fork, and by the end, the bread had gone soft and golden underneath, almost like dressing. It cost around 75 cents. It was the day after Thanksgiving feeling available every day of the year, which is exactly why people ordered it in July. The turkey was roasted in the back, the gravy was made from the drippings, and on a cold day, the plate would fog your glasses when it landed in front of you. Cafeteria workers loved it because it used up everything. Shoppers loved it because it tasted like a holiday nobody had to host. When people say they miss the old Sears, this is one of the plates they mean. Number 19. Tuna salad on toast. The tuna salad sandwich was the quiet bestseller, the one that never made a fuss and never disappointed. Canned tuna mixed with mayonnaise, diced celery, and a little grated onion, spread thick between 2 slices of lightly toasted bread, cut on the diagonal with a wedge of dill pickle and a few potato chips leaning against it. About 40 cents. This was what the ladies ordered, the ones who came to shop for gloves and stayed for lunch, sitting 2 and 3 to a table with their bags around their ankles. It was cool and creamy and light enough that you could still button your coat after. Nordstrom got famous for their tuna sandwich. Sears never bragged about theirs, but it was the same idea, the same era, the same small, perfect thing. A sandwich a woman could order alone without feeling alone because the coffee house was full of women doing exactly the same thing. Number 18. Baked macaroni and cheese. Baked, not stirred. The Sears mac and cheese came out of a hotel pan in firm golden squares, a crust of browned cheese and buttered crumbs on top, the inside still creamy and pulling into strings when you lifted a forkful. Around 30 cents as a side, a little more as a plate. This was the children's lunch, the thing your mother pointed at behind the sneeze guard while you nodded. But grown men ordered it too, quietly, next to their Salisbury steak, because there is no age at which baked macaroni and cheese stops being a comfort. The cafeteria version had a depth the boxed kind never touched. Real cheddar, real butter, baked long enough to develop those crisp brown edges everyone fought over. Kids remember the corner pieces. They remember the little squares wobbling on the tray as they slid it along the rail toward the cashier, terrified of dropping it before they reached the table. First pattern break. Here is what people forget about a place like this. The Sears Coffee House was not really about the food, it was about the ritual. You picked up a brown plastic tray, still warm from the dishwasher, slid it along a chrome rail, and moved past the whole spread behind glass, pointing, choosing, watching a woman in a hairnet build your plate. There was a rhythm to it. The clink of the trays, the squeak of the rail, the cashier at the end who could total your order in her head faster than any register. For millions of Americans, this was where you learned to eat in public. It was where a kid first ordered for himself, voice cracking, pointing at the pie. It was where you sat after a long morning and were, for 20 minutes, simply a person being fed by people who did this every day and were good at it. The department store fed you, and that was ordinary, and we did not know what we had. Number 17, chicken a la king. This was the fancy one, the plate that made a Tuesday feel like an occasion. Diced chicken and mushrooms in a rich cream sauce, brightened with pimento, ladled over toast points or into a puff pastry shell, sometimes over rice, about 70 cents. It came to America's cafeterias dressed up as elegance, and it delivered, that pale golden sauce flecked red and green, steaming on the plate. A woman shopping for a wedding gift might order chicken a la king and feel, for the length of one lunch, like she was somewhere finer than a store that also sold lawnmowers 2 floors down. That was the magic of it. The coffee house could serve you elegance for the price of pocket change, and it never once made you feel that you had overreached. You could not make this at home without an afternoon of work. Here it arrived in 90 seconds, and it tasted like the trouble somebody else had gone to. Number 16, the molded Jell-O salad. No mid-century cafeteria tray was complete without something that wobbled. The molded salad sat in the cold case in little ridged domes, lime green or ruby red, sometimes with shredded carrot suspended inside, sometimes crushed pineapple, sometimes, and this is true, tiny shrimp or diced celery set in a savory tomato aspic. A dime. It came out on a leaf of iceberg lettuce with a dab of mayonnaise on top, and it shimmered under the fluorescent lights like a jewel. Modern eyes find it baffling, but in an era when a refrigerator was still a small miracle in many homes, a cold, clear, molded salad was a quiet show of sophistication. It meant somebody owned the equipment to make it and the skill to unmold it clean. On the tray line, you did not have to own anything. You just pointed, and the shimmering thing was yours, sophistication for a dime, sitting next to your Salisbury steak. Number 15, egg salad sandwich. Humble, cheap, and perfect. Chopped hard-boiled eggs bound with mayonnaise and a whisper of mustard, a little salt, a little pepper, spread cool and thick on soft white bread, with the crusts sometimes trimmed for the ladies' plates. Around 35 cents. This was the sandwich for the shopper watching every dime, the one who came to pay a nickel on the layaway account and treated herself to lunch anyway because the coffee house made even thrift feel like a small luxury. It was light, it was filling, and it did not repeat on you through the afternoon. Church women ordered it, widows ordered it, teenagers on their first solo trip downtown ordered it because it was the cheapest hot counter lunch that still came on a plate with a pickle. That plate and that pickle mattered. They turned the cheapest thing in the room into a meal instead of a snack, and everyone at the table was eating something, and nobody had to know how little it cost. Number 14, chicken and dumplings. Here is the one the lunch ladies were proudest of. Chicken simmered off the bone until it fell apart, in a broth gone golden and thick, with dumplings dropped in by the spoonful and swollen soft as clouds. About 60 cents a bowl. It was not on the menu every day. It came on the cold days, the gray ones, the ones where the parking lot turned to slush and shoppers came in stamping their boots. On those days, the smell of it reached the escalator, and people who had come to buy a furnace filter suddenly remembered they were hungry. This was the plate that felt like somebody's grandmother was working the back line because somebody's grandmother usually was. Cafeteria cooks in that era were career women who had made these dishes 10,000 times. They did not follow a recipe. They followed a memory, and you could taste it, and you went home and told your family the coffee house had chicken and dumplings today like it was news worth sharing. Number 13, split pea soup. Every good cafeteria had a soup that never left the menu, and split pea was often the one. Dried peas simmered for hours with a ham bone saved from the kitchen's own hams, cooked down until the peas dissolved and the soup turned thick and green and smoky, thick enough to hold a spoon upright. 15 cents a bowl, maybe 20 with crackers. It was the coldest weather order, the thing a man got with a grilled cheese to make a full lunch out of pocket change. Cafeterias loved it because nothing went to waste. The ham bones from yesterday became the soup of today. Shoppers loved it because it stuck to you, kept you warm through an afternoon of errands, and cost almost nothing. There was no ceremony to it. It came in a heavy white bowl with a paper-wrapped sleeve of saltines, and you crushed the crackers in, and you sat by the window, and the whole store smelled faintly of ham until closing. Number 12, meatloaf and mashed potatoes. The definitive cafeteria plate. A thick slab of meatloaf, ketchup glazed and baked in loaf pans in the back all morning, sliced to order and laid beside a scoop of mashed potatoes with a ladle of brown gravy pulling the two together, around 80 cents with a vegetable. This was Monday or Thursday, or any day the kitchen had ground beef to stretch, and stretching it into meatloaf turned cheap meat into something that looked like real supper. Men on their lunch break ordered it because it ate like the dinner they would not get to at home. Retirees ordered it because it was soft and familiar and did not fight back. The coffee house meatloaf had onion in it and breadcrumb and enough sage that the smell alone could pull you off the escalator. It was food your mother made, served by women the same age as your mother, in a room full of strangers who all seemed to be having the same quiet good time. Second pattern break. Here is the part nobody wants to say plainly. These cafeterias did not close because the food went bad. They closed because America changed around them. In the 1970s and the 1980s, the shopping mall exploded, and with it came the food court, a ring of bright plastic counters selling burgers and orange drink and cinnamon rolls, faster and louder and cheaper than a sit-down cafeteria could ever be. Why wait in a tray line for a plate of meatloaf when you could grab a bag and eat walking? Sears tried to keep up. By the late 1980s, a company called Cattle Guard was taking over the old Sears coffee shops and turning them into delis, selling cold cuts and imported cheese and escargot, of all things, chasing a customer who no longer wanted to sit down. It did not work. The tray line disappeared, then the counter, then the store. We traded the woman who called you honey for a teenager at a register, and we called it progress. Number 11, liver and onions. Do not laugh. In its day, liver and onions was one of the most ordered plates in any cafeteria in the country, and Sears was no exception. Calf's liver, dredged in flour and fried fast in a hot pan, laid under a heap of onions cooked down slow and sweet, served with mashed potatoes and a slice of bread to catch the drippings. About 75 cents. A whole generation grew up hating it because their mothers cooked it to shoe leather at home. But the coffee house cooks knew the secret: 2 minutes aside and not a moment more. So the outside crisped and the inside stayed just barely pink and tender. It was cheap because butchers had more liver than anyone wanted, and it was nutritious in ways nobody bothered to explain, packed with iron and B vitamins that kept working people upright through long shifts. Older shoppers ordered it on purpose. They knew what it was worth, even when nobody younger would touch it. Number 10, fried chicken. On Sundays and on paydays, the fried chicken plate was the thing. Bone-in pieces dredged and fried in the back until the skin crackled and shone, 3 pieces to a plate, with mashed potatoes, a biscuit, and a scoop of green beans cooked soft with a little pork. Around 95 cents and worth every penny. This was the plate a family split after church, the mother and the children sliding their trays down the rail while the father found a table by the window. The coffee house fried its chicken fresh, and on a busy Sunday you could smell it the moment the doors let you in from the cold. It was not fast food fried chicken. It was somebody's kitchen at scale, and it came out juicy under that shattering crust in a way the drive-thru never managed. People planned their shopping around it. They came for the chicken and bought the socks on the way out. Number 9, hamburger steak. Not a hamburger. A hamburger steak, which is to say a thick oval of ground beef, unbunned, cooked to order and buried under grilled onions and a dark gravy, served open on the plate with potatoes and whatever vegetable the kitchen had going, about 85 cents. This was the order for a man who wanted something that ate like a steakhouse without the steakhouse bill, and the coffee house delivered it every single day. The onions were the whole thing, cooked slow until they went soft and brown and sweet, piled on so thick you had to dig for the meat. It was hearty in the specific way that food made of beef and onion and gravy is hearty, the kind of lunch that carried a working man to supper without a complaint in between. He would eat it fast, drink his coffee, leave a dime on the table, and go back to the sales floor or the loading dock, fed and quiet and set for the afternoon. Number 8, the cottage cheese fruit plate. This was the ladies' lunch, the plate that ruled the coffee house from about noon to 2. A scoop of cottage cheese in the center, ringed with canned peach halves, pear halves, a few grapes, maybe a slice of cantaloupe in season, a lettuce leaf underneath, and a single maraschino cherry on top of the cottage cheese, like a period at the end of a sentence. About 50 cents. It was light, it was pretty, and it let a woman eat lunch out without eating heavy, which mattered in an era with very particular ideas about that. But strip away all that, and it was just a cool, sweet, easy plate on a warm day, and the women who ordered it were doing something quietly radical for their time, sitting alone or in pairs, spending their own money, taking an hour in the middle of the day that belonged to nobody but them. Third, pattern break. Here is what we really lost, and it was never the food. The Sears coffee house was what people now call a third place, somewhere that was not home and not work, where you could simply be. A retiree could nurse a cup of coffee for an hour, and nobody rushed him. 2 friends could meet there because it was warm and central and cheap, and neither of their houses had to be clean. A young mother could sit a spell and let the kids finish their macaroni while she caught her breath. These rooms held the small, unglamorous social life of a whole country. The meeting up, the sitting down, the being among people that did not cost much and did not ask much. When the cafeterias closed, that quiet gathering place closed with them, and we did not build another one. We got drive-thrus and phones. The coffee is still out there. The room full of people slowing down together is mostly gone. Number 7. Chocolate cream pie. Now the sweet end of the line. The chocolate cream pie sat in the cold case in tall wedges, a crumb or pastry crust filled with a dense chocolate custard and crowned with a swirl of real whipped cream, sometimes a curl of chocolate shaved on top. About 25 cents a slice. It was the reward, the thing you eyed the whole way down the tray line, the thing your mother said yes to if you had been good. The custard was cool and thick and not too sweet. The crust gave a little resistance. The cream melted the second it hit your tongue. Cafeteria pie was made in the store, in the back, by someone who made a dozen of them before the doors opened. You could taste that it was real. A child would eat it slowly, on purpose, to make the trip last, scraping the plate while the grown-ups finished their coffee and talked about nothing. Number 6. The hot fudge sundae. Some Sears stores ran a Fred Sanders confectionery counter, and if yours did, you knew about the hot fudge. Real hot fudge, thick and dark and warm, poured over vanilla ice cream in a tulip glass, with a cloud of whipped cream, a scatter of nuts, and a cherry on the very top. About 35 cents. Sanders was a Detroit institution, and their fudge was the kind that turned chewy where it hit the cold ice cream, a texture people still chase and rarely find. Kids remember the bumpy cake from that same counter, but the sundae was the event. You got it after the shopping was done as a bribe or a reward, or just because your grandmother believed a trip downtown was not complete without one. The glass sweated. The spoon was long, and you dug down through the cold and the cream to the pool of warm fudge waiting at the bottom, and for a minute, the whole store disappeared. Number 5. The banana split. If the sundae was the reward, the banana split was the celebration. A banana split down the middle, laid in a long boat of a dish, 3 scoops of ice cream between the halves, 3 sauces, chocolate, strawberry, pineapple, then whipped cream the length of the whole thing, nuts, and 3 cherries, 1 per scoop. Around 50 cents, which made it a splurge. This was the birthday order, the good report card order, the you behaved at the dentist order. It was too much for one child, which was the point, because it came with extra spoons and became a family event right there at the Formica table. The soda fountain kid built it in front of you, and the building of it was half the joy. The bananas going in, the scoops, the long ribbons of sauce. You did not get a banana split because you were hungry. You got one because something good had happened, and the coffee house was where a family went to market. Number 4. The malted milkshake. The soda fountain was its own small kingdom, and the malted was its crown. Ice cream, milk, syrup, and a scoop of malt powder spun together on a green-necked mixer until it climbed thick up the sides of the metal cup, then poured into a tall glass with the extra left in the cup beside it, because there was always extra, and the extra was the best part. About 30 cents. Chocolate malt was the classic, but a good fountain would make you any flavor you were brave enough to name. The malt powder was the secret, giving it that toasted, slightly nutty depth a plain milkshake never had. Teenagers courted over these, 2 straws, 1 glass, the whole cliché. And it was a cliché because it was true, and it happened here. The fountain worker in the paper hat was a minor celebrity to every kid in town. He knew your order, he made it climb the glass, and he never once hurried you out. Number 3. Bottomless coffee. Here is the nickel that made grown men close their eyes. A cup of coffee at the Sears coffee house cost about a nickel, later a dime, and the waitress came back around to fill it again for free, and again and again. That was the deal, and that deal ran the whole room. A man could sit for an hour on the price of one cup, and men did, retirees mostly, coming in at the same time each day to the same seat, nursing the same bottomless cup, and reading the same newspaper. The coffee was nothing special. That was never the point. The point was the warmth of the cup, and the warmth of the room, and the woman who knew to fill it without being asked. For a lot of older people living alone, that cup of coffee was the closest thing they had to being expected somewhere. They came for the refill. They stayed for the being known. Number 2, the club sandwich. When a shopper wanted to feel like they were really dining out, they ordered the club. 3 slices of toast stacked into 2 decks, turkey and bacon and lettuce and tomato and mayonnaise cut into 4 triangles, each one speared with a frilled toothpick. The whole architecture arranged around a mound of potato chips, or, in the fancier coffee houses, actual French fries, about 65 cents. It was the most expensive sandwich on the board, and it looked tall and layered and pinned together like something from a real restaurant. This was the order for the man treating a client, or the couple out shopping together, making an afternoon of it, or the woman who had just bought herself something nice and decided the day deserved a proper lunch. It arrived looking like effort, like the kitchen had built you something, and you had to take a toothpick out and tip the triangle to get your mouth around it, and that little bit of work was part of the pleasure. Number 1, the blue plate special. At the top of the list is the plate that held everything the coffee house was. The blue plate special was the full, hot dinner. Whatever the kitchen had made that day, roast beef or roast pork or turkey, a real slab of it, with mashed potatoes and gravy, a vegetable, a roll and butter, all of it on one divided plate for one low price, usually around $1.25. It came fast, it came hot, and it came complete. This was Sunday dinner served on a Tuesday to anyone with $1.25 and the desire for it. A factory worker on his lunch break ate the same roast beef dinner as the woman who had just financed a refrigerator upstairs, at the same tables, off the same steam table, and for the length of that meal, there was no difference between them. That was the quiet promise of the American department store cafeteria. It was not fine dining. It was better than that. It was a hot, full, honest dinner that any ordinary person could sit down to with dignity in the middle of an ordinary day, in the middle of a store that sold everything, back when a store like that still believed feeding you was part of the deal. We let it go. We let all of it go. The tray line and the coffee and the woman who called you honey, and we have been looking for it in other rooms ever since. Here is my challenge. Make one of these this week. The chicken and dumplings, the hot turkey plate, the chocolate cream pie. Set it on a real plate and sit at a real table the way you would have at the coffee house. Then tell me which Sears you remember and what your family always ordered, because these were never just meals. They were a room where a whole country slowed down together, and I want to know if you remember it too. Drop it in the comments. I want to see whether the hot fudge sundae gets more love than the blue plate special.